I write mostly because I have to. I've always felt like writing was a compulsion for me. It was something that I've never had a choice to do.
I write to get myself out of a corner. I write to get myself from point A to point B.
I write because it is the only thing that makes sense.
That's what I do. I write.
All writing, like all art, begins with the light bulb moment, or just the moment of putting your hands on a keyboard or putting a pen to a piece of paper and letting things just roll.
From the earth, meaning could grow, our mythos roaming free, spreading its seeds. What hue, what species of tree does a word like apparition create? Anything you write, it has a life. It really begins to exist when you put words on a page.
That beginning process should be as wild and unconscious and free as possible. I start with longhand, and then there comes a certain point where I move to my desk and my computer. And then I have a period of time where I'm kind of going back and forth between the two.
My brother's bones stick out in all directions. Fast, lacy fingertips, architect hands. These nimble limbs will go somewhere dangerous. When I write longhand, I'm much more careful because it takes longer to put the words on the page.
The woman of the house crossed the room, snatched up the kitten. She went to the window and opened it. Without a word, she held the kitten out the window and let go. Upon impact, it shattered, as small, fine-boned kittens will do. I write everything longhand. It has to be yellow legal paper, it has to be black ink, it has to be a fountain pen, not ballpoint.
And when I'm writing on a laptop, I'm more experimental maybe because I'm free to be. It's easier to just highlight and delete.
Once I move it to the computer, I'm really thinking architecturally, moving sentences around and stanzas around, and I just can't do that in longhand with the same kind of speed that the computer offers. Revision, I think, is where the artfulness comes in. It's where you can really start thinking about sentences and images and honing characters and making sure navigation from plot point to plot point makes sense. You know, that's where you're really just tinkering with the minutest aspects of the English language and also the minutest aspects of structure.
I believe that revision is probably the most important part of the writing process.
The revision process is kind of a process of opening up, which is beautiful, but it means that what you start out with might have nothing to do with what you finish with, and sometimes that's really heartbreaking.
It's like a musician that practices every day. It's kind of the same principle with revision. The more you do it, the better the piece will get.
Usually it's the third draft where you really start to get somewhere, because the second draft, sometimes you overthink it and you kind of ruin whatever wild energy was coming through that first draft. So it's in the third draft that you really start to amalgamize both the conscious revising brain and the unconscious communication. They start working together.
Bob has an obsession with exclusivity, but I was mostly grossed out by the invitation to go into Bella Thorne's room and look at her very personal things. That was a joke because we all know the magazine wasn't giving a bop pervert's exclusive photo shoot or anything. It's really important to be workshopped, to get other people's feedback.
If you're in a workshop class, you hand in on a certain date, and then the class talks about what is working and what is not working in what you've handed in. There's about a half-hour discussion, and usually the writer of the piece will take notes, and then at the end they have a chance to ask the class questions that haven't been addressed. There comes a point in the revision process when you have to say, this is the best that I can do for myself and for this piece right now.
It's definitely a gut feeling, and some pieces never feel finished. And I've definitely had things published that I felt that way about. Once it's appeared in a magazine or in a book, that's it. That's just the final form of what it looks like, and it's time to move on. But it is very satisfying when I do have those moments of feeling like, yes, that thing has, you know, just kind of clicked shut and it's good and it's done. That's also very pleasurable.
It's usually quite beautiful to realize how far you can come on one piece.